Hello, 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 and welcome. I skip an intro today because I'm going to be short. Um, I had like this huge epiphany, not even an epiphany, I would say. People similarly call them downloads, where you're just doing something that you normally do out of the ordinary, nothing out of the ordinary. And all of a sudden, this idea of something that you need to share with others kind of pops in your head, right? And one of those things that came to me today was, what is the purpose of you creating a channel to share on YouTube? That was a big one. And what is it that you truly want to create in your life, right? I've spent the vast majority of my time pretty much being a mother and like serving that purpose a lot. And then also making sure the career was up to par so that I can serve that purpose to the best of my ability. And before that, I was sort of, teaching, and that came very naturally to me. And then writing, which also comes very naturally to me. But when I sit around and think about what is it you want to create in the world, what is your purpose at this point, I kind of draw a blank sometimes. And so I was sitting in the car coming back from, of all places, I guess, Target, simple little task, right? And I realize how many of us may struggle with the idea of, why am I here in this moment? What is it that I want to give to the world? How do I want to positively impact the world? And what is it that I want to create that's going to leave the world in a better place than it was before I came? Or even just environments, or even just people in a better place, right? Some of the things that I know that often keep us from going down this road is some limiting beliefs that we may be holding on to based on whether or not we can accomplish or create or manifest those things in our lives. I think the idea of manifestation sometimes gets a bad rep, and maybe it gets conflated with materialism. But there's nothing wrong with manifesting material things. Some people want to manifest vehicles that don't break down. Funny enough, I was thinking of that, and on the way home, I saw 3 vehicles broken down in the middle of the street. I had to go to the side, while they were working on their vehicles, right? And I was thinking to myself how someone might say, well, you shouldn't be trying to manifest a car. But what if someone just wants to manifest a vehicle that they can rely upon, that they can use to go back and forth to do whatever type of work that they're doing to provide for their families, to create something better for their families, right? What if you want to manifest a home that's in a better environment because you have children and you want them to grow up in a space where they can feel comfortable and free with playing outside, right? Where you don't have to worry about locking up the house like Fort Knox at nighttime, right? What if you want to manifest quality clothing? Some people get positions in life, or they get opportunities in life, and maybe they think about going to this new job or something. They're like, I don't even have the clothes to match this, right? I don't even have the type of look that I want to have to be in the environment that I'm trying to go to. So I don't believe necessarily that manifesting material things is ever going to be a negative thing, because material things and material world is what we live in. And it's always going to be going to whatever we're trying to create and wherever we're trying to be, or whichever way we're trying to expand in life, right? Some of those limiting beliefs that I think truly impact us are, and I'll name some that I've dealt with in the past. And this is the thing about limiting beliefs. When you come from limiting belief mindsets, like when it's kind of like the way that you always thought, right? You don't necessarily just drop them cold turkey, because they've been embedded in you since you were a little child. So depending on what you're dealing with and what you're going through in life, those limiting beliefs may pop back up again. And then, but our best way to approach that is to know that these are just feelings, these are just thoughts, these are just old beliefs that I used to deal with, and that I have a better belief system now, and one that serves me, and that's what I'm going to go with, right? So something like, I'm not worthy of the things that I'm asking for. A lot of people feel like this with friendships. They feel like this with relationships. They feel like this with whatever happily ever after they've created for themselves that they want to experience. What you'll find out is that a lot of people who want those types of experiences, they truly don't feel worthy, right? We can truly get caught up on whether or not we are in this perfect place in our life where we all of a sudden deserve the things that we think that we desire, right? It's like, am I perfect enough to attract a mate? Am I perfect enough to create good friendships? Am I perfect enough for my children to love me? All these things. And it doesn't even work like that, right? Because at the end of the day, in the beginning, for that matter, we're all in progress. The only thing that's required in most healthy, loving relationships is that you're trying, is that your goal is not to cut and run the minute you see something you don't like, is that you are trying to figure out the problem instead of trying to create more problems. That is kind of what most people require. It's not about perfection. It's not about being this fairy tale version of yourself that we almost never get to. You know, we get better at a lot of things, but we don't necessarily turn into these perfect versions that we see of ourselves. And we're no longer competitive. We're no longer jealous. We're no longer angry. We're no longer, needy. We're no longer codependent. Some of those things are going to be deeply embedded in us for a very long time because it's the way that we functioned in like the entire first half of our lives. But when we actually know that we're worthy, even with those flaws, even with those things that are not necessarily characteristics that we want to show to the world all the time, right? That's when the magic starts to happen. Some other limiting beliefs that I know people often deal with is that there's some type of financial burden that a financial marker that they can't meet. And if you're in our society, you're growing up in this world and you're growing up in a capitalistic society, a lot of what you have been taught and focused on has been about your financial situation, your financial level. And some of us allow our financial level or what we think we're capable of doing or having completely cap off the type of life that we can live, right? We have these scarcity mindset affirmations, I'll call them, that run through our head all the time. That's too expensive. I can't afford that. That costs too much, right? And what's so interesting is that I'll say this sometimes, but what I told my daughter the other day was, it doesn't cost too much for somebody who really wants it, right? She was talking about $500 for a concert ticket to some concert her friend wanted to go to with her. She was like, I don't even like the artist that much. That's way too much. And I was like, it's really not too much for people who truly love the artist. And she was like, well, I guess that's right. And that's how we have to start looking at things. Maybe it's something that we wouldn't put our time and energy into and our financial abundance into, but maybe it's because we don't want it enough or we don't love it enough or we don't care about it enough, right? It's not always that this item is just too expensive, right? I remember a long time ago, I stopped raising up prices when I would buy things or do things because I didn't want that to be the main perspective of what I was doing. And I didn't allow other people to break that boundary either. If I would get something new, I was sharing that I got this new vehicle or I got this new outfit or something like that. I was in an era where people would always say, well, how much that cost? But I stopped answering. I was like, oh, enough. I was like, but isn't it beautiful? I was training myself at the same time because those beliefs about what you should have access to financially and what you don't have access to and what's never going to happen and all that, those are very real. And I was just also saying the other day that scaling back life and always trying to, I don't think anything is wrong with saving money on things because I do that too. Like I was just in World Market today and lady was like, oh, 25% off food items. And I went, ooh. And she was like, let me give you the price before and I'll give you the price after. She said, you saved $16 today. And I was like, wow, that was very, very nice, right? I don't think anything's wrong with that, but it's not from a scarcity perspective. I'm not going up there thinking like, I'm not getting these items unless they're 25% off. I'm not buying this thing. So when you don't have that mindset, you go to the register and it is 25% off. It's like it's a bonus, right? So I think a limiting belief that we all deal with is trying to scale back everything all the time, right? I remember I was in class once and I told one of my classmates when I was working on a master's at some point that my daughters were playing soccer. And I was like, I bought cheap soccer shoes, right? Just doing that thing that we do when we think we're saving something. And my daughter was running on the field and I don't know how many times those shoes flopped off her feet and flew in the air when she was trying to kick that ball. It was quite ridiculous and embarrassing, to say the least, right? And so she had already worn them. So at that point, I had to go get another pair. And she told me this little saying that they have in her language. It was Spanish, but she said it in Spanish, but she said it in English for me too. You buy cheap, you buy twice. And this is so true. So I also found that in life, it's like scaling back things because I'm telling myself these financial scarcity beliefs never ever did work, right? And then like from that point on, I started buying quality everything. I wouldn't purchase it if it wasn't quality shoes, quality clothing, quality furniture, quality everything. Because what I realize is that when you do that, those items, you can check a box and be like, oh, well, that's a quality item I can hold on to for a very long time, right? And then the price of it doesn't even matter because you have to have a mindset of there's always more where that comes from. Think about all of the financial abundance in the world and how small of a piece that you're tapping into whenever you go buy something at say $1,000 or whatever, right? Like I got a bed that's like indestructible, hands down. I don't ever have to buy a new bed for the rest of my life. If I choose not to, I never have to. Solid wood, Japanese, what do they call it? Carpentry, and it is solid, is, you know? And so when I think about that, I never think about how much it costs. And to be honest with you, I can't really remember exactly how much it costs anymore because now I've had it for a few years, right? And we have to get to this place where we're like, those limitations are governing my life and they're stopping me from living my most expansive and abundant life that I can possibly live, right? Another limiting belief that I think we all deal with is it's feeling like we don't have anything to offer, right? So that's kind of the mode where my mind was going when I was just sitting there thinking about, you know, what is my purpose now? Now that that's not a primary thing, and it can't be just going shopping every day because that gets old really, really fast, right? Like what am I focused on at this point in my life? And so I think until you open up your mind and start doing more meditation and start doing more, you know, I say ruminating. Ruminating doesn't have to be a bad thing, right? But I mean, it could have that connotation. And sitting with those ideas that says, what is it that I want to create and what is it that I want to bring to the world? And then start thinking about what am I kind of good at already? What am I kind of good at doing already, right? And then from there, you can start kind of building on top of that. And then trying things. Trying something every chance you get, trying to do new things, trying to, you know, open new doors, trying to tap into new networks, right? Because I think that's a huge one that holds us back because we'll sit and think about, oh, I could do that. I could do this. I could do that. And then none of it truly sparks that excitement that we want to have. Like we want to have those ideas just drag us, right? And then we're back at square one again. And then another week has passed and it's like, I still don't have any focus. I still don't have any deeper insight to the purpose that I want to share in this life, right? And I'm a firm believer that your purpose can be different at many different times in your life. It doesn't necessarily have to be one thing your entire life. There are people that have that sort of experience, but I think for the most of us, it's going to change depending on your age, depending on the level of training or education you have, depending on the age of your children, if you have children or not, depending on whether you're married, if you're married or not, depending on whether you travel, if you don't travel. So like as we go on, those things can continue to ebb and flow. And I think that one of the worst things that we can do to ourselves, like a huge disservice, is to believe something like we're washed up, we don't have anything to offer, you know, nobody likes me, nobody cares about what I have to say, nobody cares about what I bring to the table. And, you know, this world is going to hell in a handbasket, and why should I even try? Because if you want that type of information, there are tons of channels all over YouTube that share that exact information, right? Well, I'm like, what's the end goal to that, right? How does that make us feel at the end of the day? So think about it. What is it that you want to create in this world? What is it that might seem important to you, right? Earlier today, my daughter asked me, she said, you should start a charity. Out of the blue. I was like, a charity for what though? And she was like, I don't know yet, but it did pique my interest. And so sometimes if you just start having these conversations with other people, you'll get insight into what you want to do. And there's some things that just don't do it for you. And you can't even say that you're remotely interested, right? So paying attention to those limiting beliefs, paying attention to that unworthiness that may creep up in you, because the unworthiness is also what causes procrastination. It's also what causes us to miss the appointment that's important. It's also what causes us to, not, call about a bill or something in a timely fashion. And now we owe double the bill, That's the kind of stuff that we do because we're not necessarily focused on our worthiness and we're not really taking ourselves seriously. And that's not to say that you got to be all uptight about life and you got to feel like, everything that doesn't work out or works out is the end of the world. And, you're going to drop to your knees crying and screaming because you didn't get your dream or whatever like that. It's not like that. Taking yourself seriously in a light manner means that maybe I don't believe in myself fully at this moment, right? But since when does believing in yourself have to be a requirement to accomplish anything? Most of everything I've ever done in my life that were big feats, I didn't really believe it was going to happen as it was going. And matter of fact, I think that's what makes the victory of it so much more exciting, because when it's actually in your hand, you're like, I can't believe this actually happened. So belief is not a prerequisite for creating anything in our lives, right? So we start focusing more on what's the solution? What's the end result? What do I want to create? What do I want to bring? Who do I want to be? How does this person show up? What value that I want to add to this world that's maybe not there at this present moment, right? What value do I want to attach to that's already out there, And I'm like, hey, I can help with this or I can assist with that. And start putting feelers out there, right? What type of network do I need to tap into? What type of YouTube videos do I need to watch, right? What type of books do I need to read, right? What type of meditations do I need to listen to? What type of friends and family or whatever do I need to be around, right? Start to change those messages, because the primary reason why most of us don't create those big things that we want to accomplish or see in our lives is strictly based on our belief systems. It's like, at what point did we stop believing that, it was worth it? And we just sort of gave up, because we all know you keep going at those goals. If not the exact specific thing that you're looking for to happen doesn't happen, something even better is going to happen, or something different and equally as great is going to happen, right? So I think the biggest disservice is sitting back and saying that it's not worth it. And we all know it is worth it. It's worth it because it helps other people. It's worth it because it brings us to a more expansive and valuable place in our lives, and we can give back to others. We can share the knowledge and the wisdom that we have with others. It's worth it because when we raise children, they can also go into this world with mental and spiritual equipment that's going to help them when those rough times happen or those moments of apathy come to them, right? We know that it's worth it because we're doing this life, and to do this life thing, we have to have something that we can sink our teeth into, right? So think about it. What do you want to create? And what are those limiting beliefs that are getting in the way of you starting that journey, of you taking that first step, of you being the version of yourself that you can be excited about and you can be proud of, and that you can be happy to wake up to every single morning? Anyway, I hope you all receive this message and have a wonderful, wonderful day.